Welcome to the Rooted Warriors, the podcast where the bonds of sisterhood are not just celebrated, but explored through laughter, tears, and everything in between. Join me and my two dearest friends as we dive deep into the roots of our own friendships, sharing stories and challenges. Whether you're looking for inspiration, advice, or just a good story, we're here to bring a piece of our sisterhood right into your life.
Hey there, my bold and brilliant tribe. Welcome back to Rooted Warriors. It's your girl, Kat, here, and today we're diving into a question that could change the way you see everything. What if we're not seeing the world through the lens as it is, but through the fingerprints of every hand that's touched our story? Is your lens filtering or blocking light out entirely? Or maybe, just maybe, it's fogged up by the breath of our own assumptions. Life has a way of smudging our view. The struggles we've faced, the stories we've been told, even the fears we carry, they all leave marks on the glass we see the world through.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Well, hello, my sister, my beautiful, beautiful sister.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello. So we're welcoming again with us today, Staci.
Wow, welcome back.
In our fourth chair.
Yes, we have now named that chair. Our wonderful Gina actually dubbed that. We no longer have necessarily just a guest anymore. It's a seat that needs to be filled.
Absolutely.
I love
it's
that.
our fourth chair. So welcome back. We're super excited to have you here with us again today.
So
good
happy.
Good guest.
Yeah,
It's
she was
amazing
awesome
guest.
the first
Yes.
time. Repeat, actually
Yes.
three-peat, because you did.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. We're so happy to have you. And this is going to be a really fun topic, I think. And,
Absolutely.
you know, we're talking about perception, and our perception is not everyone's reality.
Right.
So
Right.
we asked Staci to pick something, and this is what she picked. So give us what kind of made you pick this.
So it goes a little far back, but it's a Hallmark story. Kind of funny.
Do it. Do
Ooh,
it.
I like
Yeah.
Back in the
that.
day, let me do a little storytelling before we get
Turn
started.
on the fireplace for you. Get you a blanket.
Crackling
Oh,
fire.
So long ago, I lived in another state. Now let's get to the point. So I lived. I actually lived up in Reno. I took a job in a territory where I worked in rural Nevada, rural Utah, and California for a while. So I got to go to a lot of small towns, and then I ended up meeting a fella. We'll just call him a
A
fella.
Fella.
From
I like
Kansas.
where this is
A
going.
fella from Kansas.
Kansas
He
fella.
was from Kansas. Called me Staci.
I love it.
Totally
Yes,
not
ma'am.
Kansas
So-
anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
So at that point in my life, I was commercial banking. I was running a commercial portfolio, doing treasury management, fraud management, working with the Secret Service. It was the time of my life, and I traveled constantly. Met him, and I thought, hey, I'm working in rural Nevada, rural California. I know this. I can go to Kansas, right?
Yeah.
Why
And I
not?
lived in a high rise. I lived in a high rise in downtown Reno along the river. I loved my life. I lived this wonderful life. And so this fella said, hey, will you marry me? And I said, okay, let's go. So he says, I got to take you home to meet my family. We didn't get married, of course. So we'll just get to that point real quick.
But it was a fun ride to Kansas.
It was a fun ride. And so we ended up, he ended up making, arrangements, and I did not realize what would go into traveling back to his hometown. So we flew into Nebraska first. And I remember we flew to Denver. We switched planes. We got on a teeny tiny plane. We flew to Nebraska, and it's like cornfield. And we landed. And I was really wondering if we were still in the cornfield. So then we drove 3 hours, and we stopped at Walmart on the way, and we got steaks, and we actually marinated the steaks in the trunk of the car because that's just how they do in Kansas. So we had Ziploc bags, and they're marinating their steak, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness. So then we drove 2 more hours back to his hometown, which was this idyllic Hallmark town. His mom was the postmaster, and
Of course,
we're
she
talking
was.
like
Wow.
we're talking like this amazing story, and people were walking through town where it's not roads; it's gravel. Main Street is gravel, so we're going through this little Hallmark town, and people are stopping us, and they're looking at the ring, and everybody knew about it because the jeweler had it in his window for a month, saying the ring would be showing up, and who's the special girl.
Okay, I
mean,
need to
we're
know
talking
why
small
this
town.
didn't work out. Why did this not work
Engagement
out?
on
Whatever.
display.
So it was just a small town. But it was interesting because I remember being there and realizing that the closest Walmart was 100 miles away.
What?
And these are people that they were separated from everything. It was this whole culture and this whole different life. And I mean, we did karaoke on the back porch. And I mean, it was just this total different life. And us coming into town was like a shocker. It was like we were these royal people. But I remember looking around, and at this point I lived in a high rise, and we're sitting around talking about HOAs, and we're talking about how at night for exercising, we were using the fire escape in a 14-story building, and that's how we were working out. And I remember these people just looking at us like we were aliens because they couldn't relate. The highest thing in town was a grain silo.
Right.
So it really did hit me at this point is there are people that do not live like us, and the things that matter to them in that town. And it just so happened on that trip, he was helping his grandpa repair a railing at his house because the grandpa had fallen. So we were over there helping him repair, and he went out and he ended up falling and breaking his leg. And we went to the hospital, and I remember going to the hospital, and it's like just this little rickety place in the middle of nowhere. And they really couldn't help him. They were able to just kind of triage it, and we had to fly home to get real treatment.
What happened over here, Gina? Gina's like sucking on her mic.
I got new teeth today. So my mouth hurts.
Granny got new dentures.
I know, this is great. So the long story short is it's really fast forwarded in my life. Yeah, it didn't work out. We won't go into that. It was just drama. But
does it have to do with the
Sounds
silo?
so
It
good.
does.
I know. I'm like waiting.
So we
I
didn't work
know.
out. We got
Tell
back
me more.
home. There were some mental health issues, and it
Oh,
actually ended
okay.
up being like
Oh,
it ended up with
no.
restraining orders.
Oh
There's
my
always
God.
a restraining order.
Can
against
I make a point? Maybe it was the tainted meat from sitting in the back of the trunk for 2 hours.
Okay, I've never seen a Hallmark
It
story
wasn't
with
two,
a
it was
restraining
three,
order.
No,
two.
they had an ice chest. An ice chest.
Oh, okay.
So it's
This was planned.
It was hilarious. And there was a tornado. When we got into town, we had to like sit on the road because there was
Holy
a tornado
crap.
coming in. It was just total Kansas. But I think fast forwarding, I'm looking at today
Mhm.
and I'm realizing there are many of us that call ourselves even Americans or, even within California, and we do not live the same life.
Right.
And we do not relate to the same issues. And I thought to myself, even my own children, how many times I've had to drive to San Francisco for specialist appointments. These people would have to go completely to a different state to get it, or even just to get to Walmart for basic supplies that we go. We have
Right.
two within our we could throw rocks at them. But it really did open my eyes to the fact that we are not all living in the same place
That's
in this
right.
world. And even down to geographically and generationally. And I really watched it unfold, one with my own children watching like this most recent presidential election, but just hearing people's viewpoints on Americans and realizing we're not all in the same America. We're not all in
It's
the same
true.
place.
It's true.
Yeah. So that was my funny story. It was kind of like a fairy tale turned into a really bad movie.
a horror
but-
movie. I know. Right?
But to this day, I still never forgot that town. And it was precious, and the people were precious, and everybody was wonderful there. And they were really, truly good people. But that's all they knew. And they
Right.
knew, hey, I have to go to a major grocery store. I'm going to drive 100 miles. So it was a planned day trip to go just get a major grocery haul.
Right.
So that's like
So-
all based on really just sort of like social, culturally, where
Right.
they're located, what meant
Right?
everything to them. Like you could go as far as saying that, and then versus a life that is influenced just by things that happen, whether trauma or
Right.
positive things even can change your outlook,
Right.
or your perception may not be the same of what the rest of the world sees. Interesting.
And even too, back to this, if you go back to it, you have, when I was a kid, I lived in a really small town. I didn't live here, but we had a local,
You live in Kansas.
I did not live in
Okay.
Kansas. I live in a small town, but it was small. It's a big town now, but we had a local drunk. So, and he walked
The
up and down.
local drunk.
We had the local drunk.
Mayberry.
And we did. It was like Mayberry, and he walked up and down the main road in town, and he'd walk from the liquor store, and he lived around the corner. But it was funny because it was just programmed in a small town that
Right.
you'd pick him up and take him home, and you'd make sure he got home okay. And in small towns, like when it's really small and rural, that's kind of how what you do is you don't really, it's not a problem.
Exactly.
We all just kind of go with it.
Also, I think that you also see, in that Bible Belt
Right.
People are just different. You know, neighbors are neighbors. They actually
Right.
come out, they talk to each other. They're worried about each other. They know when your child's sick. They know when you've been sick.
Right.
They know when you miss Sunday school.
They
for
know
the
when you're
kids.
not home and
Yeah,
they need to watch your
right.
property.
Exactly. And so some of us who have grown up in a different environment,
Right.
we don't necessarily want that, right?
Right.
And we're like, why the hell are they all outside? Like, they need to get inside. Go in your prospective home. Go in your prospective home.
Go in your
And-
perspective home.
And so there's a middle ground, right?
Right.
And we should be able to understand that certain people, the way that they grew up, that's natural. They want to be out there. They want to be
Mhm.
talking. And I think that that's a small window to all the things that we see with people.
Mhm.
Because the way that you're treated and the way you're perceived, Gina, is different than the way I'm perceived. And what I see is different than what you see. And I think we see that within our own families, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Like, Gina, you grew up with there's four of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each and every member of that family went through the same thing, but saw it all differently.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a different experience.
Their
from
kaleidoscope
perspective.
was different.
Yeah, totally
And it had different
childhoods.
effect.
Yeah.
And it had a different effect.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're all
Mhm.
different. Yeah.
Well, even different childhoods, because even my brothers, there's three of us. We had three totally different childhoods.
Right.
And we have completely different recollection of the whole thing.
Same
Mm-hmm.
parents, same home, same environment,
Mm-hmm.
but you guys all see it and felt differently
Right.
about it,
Right.
Right.
which is crazy.
Right.
My three children have the same thing. They have
Right.
different perspectives. And so if we inside our family units can be like that, us as Americans who live in completely different states,
Right.
different demographics around us,
Mhm.
different
Ages.
ages, financial situations,
Mhm.
all of those things, religious, not religious,
Values.
Mhm.
Right.
all those things can make us vary. But I think
Mhm.
that all of us have one thing that I think should bind us. And that's that we all want to take care of our families and love our
Exactly.
families. And I think that that's why you saw what you saw was
Mhm.
people have felt like they can't do that.
Right.
And that's something that should bind us and make us want to be better.
Totally.
Well, and even I think down to, you think of certain people, and it really just came through to me, and how old am I now? It finally came through to me that there's certain people that are scared about things that never get recognized nationally, or, it's just like, oh, that's just a little problem. But when even just walking into that little hospital, I thought to myself, man, what do you do if your kid has cancer?
Right.
What do you do if you have a major heart attack and you need open heart surgery? I doubt this tiny hospital is going to be able to pull that off.
They're
And are you
not.
going to make it?
Right.
They're going to ship you off somewhere.
They're going to ship you up. And are you going to make
Right.
it? And if there's a tornado, are you going to make it? So-
Well, didn't you even feel that in your situation with your kids? Because you kind of feel like you're viewing things differently than the world is seeing things, because there's no magnifying
Well,
glass.
I'm very much in that situation right now, just being in the Central Valley,
Mm-hmm.
because you have, so there's a blanket approach to children who are severely disabled.
Right.
And there's this capture point for them, and they can go off in this little silo. But if you have a kid that doesn't fit quite in a box where they can go this way or that way, or they're stuck in the middle,
Like a high functioning situation.
high functioning,
That's where
but
we
they
were at
still
also.
struggle. And I'm sure you
Uh-huh.
understand this too. But you get to a point where you realize we don't fit. And we've been told we don't fit. And that's why we've fallen.
It's been very made clear.
That's right. And
But you're viewing it differently than the world. We're
Mhm.
viewing it differently because we're,
right.
we see it through different glasses.
Well, and I think you do get to a point where you give people grace, because you're going through something that is rare.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to have a kid not fit in because they're awkward or they're different or they don't quite dress right or they just don't get all the answers right. But there's a kid who really truly doesn't fit
Mm.
in any way possible. And I
Right.
think that's what you and I can relate to, is just that you have this kid that's super smart, but they struggle at the same time.
Mhm.
And, I think the education system scratches their head at that. And
They're not sure where they fit. I remember them bringing
Mhm.
Cameron into a stark white room, and they wanted to remove him from the program he was in. And I was like, is this a new room? Are you just haven't hung pictures yet? And they were like, no,
What is
I
this?
know, Mom, what is happening? They were like, no, this is, it's too distracting with all the colors. And I was thinking, oh my gosh. So it's
Mhm.
true. You kind of, but it just kind of, I was using it as an example to like the whole situation
right.
that we all are affected by certain things that have happened in our lives like that other people are not aware of or even aware of, let alone have an opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It makes you
And
more highly sensitive to certain things. Like I'm sensitive,
graceful, right?
I'm sensitive to like the kid that, doesn't fit in because I think
Mhm.
about my brother.
Right.
I am sensitive to the tomboy that doesn't fit in because it
Right.
reminds me of me.
Right.
There's certain things that we get sensitive to because of what we saw as children
Right.
and even as adults. And, like Gail used to always be the one that drags in, the lost kitten,
Right.
if it was somebody's stray dog, like she'd bring them in, but it was a person, right? And I think that is because of the way that things happen in her
Right.
life. And so she wanted to save those people. I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I can be the same way, like I'll hire people and do things for people and they're like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm sensitive to that. I want
Right.
to do that.
And I think that's where your empathy really comes in. And I think we can connect on that is, okay, well, maybe I'm not walking exactly in their shoes, but I can relate to it.
Yes.
And I love the whole feeling of I can feel for you, even though I'm not exactly in your shoes. And it was funny. I always tell this story. I have this one friend that came to me and she was homeschooled. She was raised just so wholesome and she got married and she had baby number 1, gorgeous little baby. Baby number 2, before the end of the pregnancy, husband checked out. And she comes to me and I met her after he had checked out. And I remember she comes to me one day and she's really got Rice Krispies in her hair.
All hell broke loose.
And she's like, and he says, I'm such a bad mom. And, she's going on about all the complaints the ex had about her. And I'm looking as I'm picking like a cherry. Let me get that for you, honey. Let me get that for you. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, of course you're not a stellar mom. You thought you were in this with someone. You thought you were living a life. And now you're living this completely different life.
It's
you're
a less than stellar situation.
Right.
How do you be
Here,
a
let me
stellar
help you with these
mom?
cherries.
That's a great way. That's a great way to put it.
But
How do
that's
I become
exactly
stellar?
it. Is I think I'm empathetic to the people that like you're living the unexpected. You did not plan this at all.
Well, and most of us are. So it's
Right.
sort of in some way, shape, or form. So I think, what do we do with those smudged lenses? You know what I mean? Like, how do we have
Right.
more empathy and grace for others that maybe just because, there's a whole walking in a mile in someone's shoes, but
Right.
Yeah. You don't know till you know. And that goes with everything. You just
Right.
don't know till you know. And no matter how much empathy we have for somebody, we don't actually know.
We don't.
And so when people try to say, oh, I know how they're feeling, or you don't know how they feel actually. So don't say
Right.
that. So whatever you do, don't say I know.
no, because you have different strengths than they do, or
That's
different
right.
other.
Because you definitely
yeah.
do not know. So
Right.
stop. But what we can do is try to be understanding.
Yes.
And even though we don't share those viewpoints, and that's the thing that I would say is I don't have to share the same viewpoint as you
Right.
to have empathy or to understand where you're coming from because we're adults.
Right.
So
It's
if
love.
somebody feels a certain way, like, I know that I have family members, Gina has family members. We all have family members that don't believe what we believe.
Right.
Right.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean I don't respect them. It means that I respect that you have
Right.
your own opinion.
Right.
And this is my opinion, so I need you to respect that back. And I'm not going to go crazy voicing my opinion. And I would like the
I
same
might a
thing
little
back.
bit. I'm just
You
joking.
might.
I'm just
Well, I
kidding.
think it's just-
it's part of that whole. It's just the where we come from in this situation. It's a little bit loud.
And I
I'm
think
really
it's a
joking
little
with Mo.
bit, and I think it's a little bit of getting past the I'm okay. When you say to someone, hey, how are you? And they say, I'm okay. Or, I'm fine.
Well, everyone lies.
Everybody lies.
We all lie. It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
Right.
no one
Through
wants to
your
hear I'm
teeth.
having a shitty day.
So
I know,
how do you get
right?
back to the point where you're like, I have the
Be
space.
honest.
I have the space. I
Be
have the time.
honest.
Tell me the truth. How are you really doing?
But you know what's funny, Staci, is I literally taught my children to do the opposite of that because
Really?
the world doesn't want to fucking hear it.
Right.
So when somebody asks you how you're doing, we are expected,
Right.
and probably we should just say, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Right.
Because no
Right.
one wants to hear our pity story.
Well, we can, but we can
But when
be
you
also
have
the
the
people.
space.
But when we have the space and we have the time, we can dig.
We need
past
to be
that,
honest.
I'm fine,
Yes.
and just help, or just ask other people to be honest. Hey,
Yeah.
unload it. And
Well, there's also like a time and a place, and you are
Exactly.
raising
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and CEOs of restaurants
Right.
and things
Yes.
like that where it
I know.
doesn't belong there. And
Yeah.
you're right,
I mean,
in
I
a
just
sense,
feel like
but-
people are more attracted to positive people.
they are.
Mm.
So when we're being negative, and even if it's the reality and we're being negative, that's not good.
But you can be negative. You can be honest and be optimistic.
See that? Now that's a skill.
And
It's a
that
balance.
I want to
So there
learn.
is.
Right.
So then when you learn optimism, that's saying, hey, I'm going to acknowledge things aren't okay, but I still have hope. And this is where I'm aiming for. And I
Right.
think you can still take a conversation saying, hey, I'm struggling, but
I've got these tools or I've got this blessing.
this is what I'm
or
working
whatever.
toward.
Yeah.
You can still wrap it up to where you don't want,
Yeah.
you don't, let me dump truck on you. Let me
Right.
just like give you some verbal vomit.
It definitely can turn into bleeding all over
Right,
somebody.
you
if you're not
can
careful,
bleed all
right?
over, but you have to be careful. And I think, okay, let's be honest. You save the real stuff for your therapist.
Or your really close friends who act like therapists.
Or your podcast. Or if you're Gina, Kat, and Mo, you save it for podcast.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. But you save it for the therapist chair. They're really dirty stuff. And then you
Yeah.
save your girl therapy. We have our circles. And
Yeah.
of course, you guys publish yours.
Staci, we are your therapy.
You are our therapist today.
You are
Right,
the
today you're
therapist.
our therapist.
But I think even with me, there was a point where I was just dark. I was dark and I had a really good therapist. And he was like this sweet man with crazy Einstein hair. And he was just so sweet. And he had all these wonderful ideas. Like he's like, go into nature. And
Gina came through.
And he's like, do you want to get a rock? Just ask nature.
Girl,
if
I
you
want
can
to
take
throw
that.
it at someone.
He's like, then when you take the rock, ask nature if you can take it with you. I'm like, okay, dude, thanks.
No, I'm so not doing that.
But I stuck with him because he let me tell
Did
him
it
all
work?
the ugly stuff.
But did
I
it
don't know.
work?
No, I moved on to a total rogue guy that just told me like it was.
That's my kind of guy.
He's like, let's just get to the point. Come on, your life's
Let's
a
move
mess.
past
Like,
this.
what
Yes,
are we
we're
going
not
to?
supposed
Let's
to
get to
beat
the
her.
point.
Yeah.
So he,
That's
I went
great.
from the nice dude. Well, I needed the nice dude. I needed like this little like,
gentle.
can you give me a hug?
You know what I noticed?
Gentle
is-
therapy.
Gentle therapy. There you go.
But there is a time and
gentle
place for gentle
parenting.
therapy. And there are, when you first, you have those people, you're like, you're not okay. Like the Cheerio girl, she needed gentle therapy.
It's okay. It'll
There's
be
a
all
time and a
all
place.
right.
Maybe
Like,
just get that Cheerio out of
Two
your
different therapists. Like you need the tell it like it is, and then like the gentle therapist.
Yeah,
Because
right.
like I know
Yeah.
at least 1 week out of the month, I need a gentle therapist.
Me too.
Maybe
Me
two.
too,
Yeah,
sister.
maybe two.
So maybe every other session, it's like tell it like it is, gentle. Tell it like it is.
Well, maybe
It's a good balance. Right?
Yeah.
It's like we need a little of both.
I notice more and more people our age talking about therapy. I don't
think
know
we
if it's
are.
like just the people I've been
Along with
around lately,
menopause.
I think we are.
but a lot of people are talking about therapy now. Where before, I think people were going to therapists,
Right.
but they weren't talking about it. It was like taboo to talk about it.
Right.
Where now
Now
I
it's
feel like
popular.
like I just feel like there's just less hiding on that. Like there's no reason to hide.
Well, I
it's
feel like
it's like
it's
going to the
acceptable.
doctor.
It's
Well, it's like going to the chiropractor. Like,
Yeah.
I get my neck adjusted, get my head checked,
I talk about my
go to the
therapist.
gynecologist, like whatever, I do it all.
I talk about my therapist like around the dinner table. I'm like, and this is what he had to say today, and this is what Ron had to say.
Ron said,
Ron
Mom,
said-
you're a pain in the ass, and you're why I have half the problems I have.
I'm like,
You know
so
what? Now
this
I
is
need
what
to go
Ron told
journal.
me.
This is
It's so
we're
funny.
we're from the generation that would jump out of a car and whoop your ass.
Right.
Right? We're the
Right.
latchkey kids, and we're probably the most needed
Unstable.
of therapy. They're like,
True.
this
You know
whole
what?
generation is in therapy or needs therapy.
We're the
It's
suck it up
truth.
generation. We are the suck it up generation.
Yes,
we
we
are.
are.
Also,
100%.
We've sucked it up. And
the
we
rest
were-
of us are women too, and we're all going through menopause. So like we're at this age.
So like
and we're
our rage is
so
coming
we
out
really
now.
need a therapist. And I'm just joking.
Victoria, so my manager the other day, she was like, well, I think I'm going to need to take a week off of work and then I need to use my sick pay. And I was
Oh,
like,
hell no. What's wrong with you?
Okay.
oh my God, what is happening? Are you having major surgery?
Are you
She
okay?
said, I'm going to have a wisdom tooth pulled. And I was
Oh,
like,
you'll be back tomorrow, sweetie.
no, that's not even what I wanted to say was, you know what? Back in my day, when I worked for my mother, I made my dentist appointment to have my wisdom teeth
on
pulled.
Friday afternoon.
No, in the morning and came in for my 5 o'clock shift full
Girl,
of gauze. My
you
mom
did
told
it
me,
in labor.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
my mom told me, you don't need to talk if you're spinning.
She's not wrong.
Yeah.
So I just went in, packed in.
Never mind, you're not
That
supposed to
was it.
raise your hands
I
behind
will
above
say-
your head.
I will say,
Right.
like, it's just a different,
Suck it up.
different generation.
Suck it up.
It is.
We are the suck
It
it up
is.
generation.
I
though.
almost had a baby at work.
But
I
we're
mean,
also
suck
the
it
same
up.
a-holes that are
Yeah.
in therapy all the time.
We also have extensive trauma.
None of us have like
did.
work-life balance. We don't know what that is. So,
But I think we're
So
all
our
at the
lenses
point.
are a little smudged.
We are,
kidding.
and I think we're finally at the point where we can all breathe enough, and we make enough money now. We can afford therapy.
Well, and
or
we can
have
laugh
good health
about it
insurance,
a little bit.
and we can laugh about it.
we can laugh
because-
about it.
And you know, it's so funny because I love the diagnosis. Like they're
We're
always
all
like-
crazy. That's the diagnosis.
Yours.
I
What
love the whole like originally they're like, we think you have this, and then you get a little more. Nope, never mind, you have this. Nope, never mind, you have this. And
Oh,
then
you're
it's like,
Gen X.
and then it
No, I'm
came
just
down to
kidding.
like you have ADHD, which all of us I
I'm
think do.
Except for Gina. Gina's the only
Gina-
one that doesn't
No,
have
she's
it.
too
No,
chill.
I am very chill. But I have two things to say. My glasses are not smudged. They're scratched.
They're gouged.
They're like gouged.
Yeah.
I need
Me too.
to see through new lenses. And we talked about
We
this
talked
earlier.
about this. Okay, so Gina,
Replacement
I need
lenses,
Gina to
yeah.
go into this because
Yeah, you
she
do.
really hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, where she's getting ready to go right now. For me, it sums it all up, gals. Go for it, Gina.
Go for it.
So I have an employee
Yeah.
and she's a stellar employee. I love her. She's charismatic. She is like, you want to duplicate her like 10 times. And then you want all your employees to behave like her. She is an above and beyond. She's also maybe 19 in college. And last night we did karaoke and she gets up on stage and she is just like a show. It's like a mini show. And she's like singing Taylor Swift with all her little
Her
hand
energy.
movements.
Yeah.
And then
Aw.
Adam looks over at me and he's like, the energy. And I was like,
I'll kill you. I'm just
I'm-
joking.
yeah,
Just
the
kidding.
energy. Can you imagine being 19?
It's just amazing.
But it reminded me of something that Monica said, you know, when we're out and about is like me. She's, oh my God, you were the funniest person I knew. Like you were so funny, right? And I looked at Emily and I was like, this is what it looks like before life beats you up. And I don't care who you are.
Right.
We've all taken punches
Right.
and been in brawls and been, you know,
assaulted
It's- yes.
completely. Yeah.
and I wish I could look like that. Right.
Right.
But my life story, and she hasn't even started her life yet. So
Right.
there's no dents, you know, where my windshield is broken, you know, all over the place
Right.
from dents, you know, and hers doesn't have a like a
Right.
scratch or a
Yeah.
scuff right now.
Life jades us,
Yeah, it does.
It does. It
and
does.
we don't realize it's happening.
No, or that, and it reminds me of of church the other day. They were talking about when don't let life make you bitter, and
Mhm.
don't let it make you an angry person.
We weren't meant to stay there.
No, and it's so okay. So what do we do now,
Mhm.
right? So I have all these dings in my windshield, and I can choose to like drive around, you know, look over here where the scratches are
Mhm.
not, or I can just get a new windshield, right? And it's like a new perspective.
You
Part-
know what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Part of what I was telling Gina earlier is, you know, I used to think, and I mean, partially this is true, but I used to think that men left their wives in their 40s for younger women only because the other woman was better looking.
Sexual.
It was a sexual thing, which I think that is
Right.
definitely part of
Right.
it.
right.
But I think the bigger part is they have joy. They have happiness
right.
because it hasn't been sucked from them by all the things that happen in life, like
Right.
raising children, bills, parents dying, your husband cheating, whatever it is.
Well, they
It's
also
true.
get to look like the hero again to those
They do.
innocent
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
But I think that something that we could glean from it, ladies, is let's find our joy. Let's not
Right.
be that negative
Right.
woman.
Right.
And that's the thing that, like, when Gina was talking, it really struck me. I don't want to be that negative, jaded old lady because I'm not old for starters.
Right.
Right.
And second of all, I am fun
Mhm.
and I do have a lot to offer.
Right.
And I don't have to hate on the younger girls just
Mhm.
like older women hated on me.
right.
Remember the Tori
Right.
story?
Oh yeah.
Remember at Tori's?
Mhm.
So I don't want to be that woman who
Mm-mm.
hates women
Right.
that are younger
Exactly.
than us and that are
Right.
happy and sweet and pretty. I want to be the woman that supports those women and say, hey, one day the shit's going to hit the fan And when it does, honey, I want to be one that you can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, what can we learn?
Yes.
You know, when I was staring at Emily last night, she's just so beautiful. And I did have those moments of like, this is what it looks like when life hasn't fucked you up.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Word.
what can I learn from this?
Yes.
And what I can
Yeah.
freaking learn from this
Yeah.
is that every single morning I choose to wake up.
Yes.
It's joy.
Right.
And then I
Yes.
need to start choosing something else.
Yes.
Right? More joy,
Preach
more,
it, sister,
yes,
preach it.
more
Right,
gratitude. It's how I'm going
Right.
to look through these lens, you know. And I have one more little story.
Tell us. We're here
going.
all day.
We're
Is-
doing it.
We had the new I want to say it was a mom and son last night at karaoke, and I was sitting with my my lady friend that I wanted to have on.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
I know, she's so beautiful.
It's an older woman. She's like 80 something, right?
Mhm.
And she is gorgeous, ladies. We'll show you a picture in a minute.
She's amazing. Well, she now comes down to watch me sing karaoke, and I love her to pieces. But she brought in a bunch of friends also, so they all came to just come and join and listen. Well, one of her friends had a son, and I'm going to say he was 60, maybe. And as I came and sat down with them, one of them said, he sings. When they brought him in, you could tell that something was wrong with him. He was being supported as he walked in, and then he looked blind.
Oh.
And I was just like, what would you like to sing? Because this is gonna, great. I love new singers. But
Don't
he
you turn my brown eyes blue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's kind of hunched over. You can tell he's very, very, very thin. Whatever's happening has gotten the best of him, maybe, from my view of what I'm looking at. And they bring him up towards the stage, and he sits down. And what came out of his mouth was so incredible. And I don't know if I took a video, and I'll show you guys in a little bit, but it was the most amazing singer we've had. He went and sat back down, sang another song a little bit later. And my friend Jeannie, she said, not only is he blind, but he's fighting stage 3 kidney cancer.
No way.
And I mean, immediately, like, my heart just sank and my eyes teared up. And he was actually singing at the time. And like, I just wanted to start praying because he had such joy.
Right.
Like, he was smiling, and he was so happy to be there and so happy to be singing. And it was just like what we take for granted, right? Like, I wake up healthy every day,
Yeah. And I think we can apply that to everything. So back to what Staci was saying, what we have and what we're whining about, somebody else would give anything for that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we have to take things into perspective.
100%. Like, what would he give for a day to be able to see again?
Well, but
And to
here's
wake
the
up and not
thing.
feel sick?
But my question is, have we, even though we can get in that comparison game and you can just positive your way through it,
Right.
but there's a point where have we become so accepting of struggle that we forgot how to take in the blessings and like take in the joy because we've just become so accustomed of just
expect it.
You expect the struggle. We accept the struggle. We make the best of it. That when something does come through, do we absorb it like we used to? And that's my question. Is
Accept
like,
the blessing.
are we able to accept the blessings and just enjoy them when they hit? Or
We aren't.
We aren't.
We are not.
Because
Well,
we're
we're so programmed
to
to
accept
be
the
like,
struggle.
what's coming? Every time I feel like it's quiet, like my river is just trickling peacefully, I'm like, what's coming?
I'm waiting
but
for
the
the
one
earthquake.
thing
I'm
we
waiting
can-
for it.
But the one thing we can be certain of is it is coming.
It's coming.
It 100. So the best thing that we can do is know that it's coming. No, it's just, what is your reaction going to be that's different to it this time than it was before? So no matter how beautiful her energy was that night, and youth is beautiful, but the beauty that I see in you has to do with the refinement over time and the experiences that you have and how you handle situations
And the wisdom.
that she could never handle. So it's a difference in that kind of energy. Now we just need to find a balance to where we can now hone in, because we're not meant to keep that. We need to be light like her too. And once we are filled with that kind of fruitful spirit, we will be, but we're working on it, and I see it in you. So I don't think you're less beautiful than her.
I don't think that either.
In that way.
I wasn't comparing myself to
I
her
meant
in
that
any way.
I just meant in that way in general.
No.
We're just different.
It was more
in different
just
chapters.
like the youthful. I mean, I wasn't. It
She's
had
not
nothing,
Chip China.
Yeah.
She's not Chip China. So it's like,
We got some war wounds.
We're amazing China, but we got a few chips in us.
But we do have, and that's the thing is we've gained a wisdom that they will never comprehend
Like, I
until
would
they
never
get to
go
this
back.
part of the road.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell, can I tell the Tori story?
Yeah.
So Gina knows it obviously, but when Bob and I were first married, obviously we're 22 years apart in age. So that's a big age difference, especially when I'm 20.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were very first married. We went to Tori's for dinner. It was the two of us. And as you guys know, you share space with other people because, they're cooking in front of you. And in front of us, there was a gentleman about Bob's age and a lady about his age. So around 40-ish, like 42. And she was a very beautiful lady. Like when I look back at it now, I'm like, oh, she was a very pretty lady. And so that we're having dinner. I'm just into Bob. I'm not thinking about anyone else at my table. And I get up and I use the bathroom. And at Tori's, they had a really small bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And when you open the door, you hit whoever's at the sink pretty much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at the sink and I'm washing my hands. And this lady comes through the door hella hard and like hits me with the door. I'm like, oh, like basically like, excuse you is what I'm thinking. And she gets right up in my face and she goes, whose husband are you fucking?
No.
And I'm like, this fucking bitch. So I'm like, but I'm young.
Yeah.
So I don't say anything. So I'm like, what the hell was that? And I'm thinking,
It's
I'm
hard to
fucking
know
my
what the
husband.
right
That's whose
say.
husband I'm fucking. So I get back to the table and now I'm getting pissed. Because now I'm like thinking about it. And Bob's next to me and the lady comes out and I give her the look like I'm going to beat the living shit out of this bitch. I'm going to rip her over the table. So Bob's like, what? Stop it. He's like kicking me in the like, stop it. What's going on? And I'm like, oh, I'll tell you later. I'm like looking at her and Bob's like, okay, we're getting the bill. We're getting out of here. So we get out the door and Bob's like, what's going on? And so like, I tell him what happened and he's like, what the heck? And he's like, well, don't worry about it. It must be something personal, like whatever. And, now looking back, she probably had a husband that cheated on her with a younger woman, probably a secretary.
Right.
And she takes one look at me with Bob and that's what's bringing back that anger. Am I condoning this woman's behavior? No. Should have I beat her ass? Of course. But,
I was waiting for that part of the
I know.
story.
Normally, well, I mean,
in the parking lot?
in the parking lot, I should have kicked her ass. Yeah, but I didn't. Luckily I didn't. But, looking back, I can see this woman was jaded.
Right.
Her china was chipped.
Right.
Mine was brand new. It just came out of Macy's, right?
Right.
So that's
But
the
she
difference.
was bleeding on you.
She was bleeding on me.
On a
She was
very
bleeding all over
young,
you.
impressionable wife.
But in the perspective of what Gina's talking about, her first reaction is to look at the girl and be like, oh, yeah, she's just great. But later when you think about it, and after she had reflection time, it's like, yeah, because she hasn't been jaded yet. The world hasn't ruined
and
this
it
poor
is
thing.
beautiful, but
It's beautiful.
But it's hard to know that we used to be that before someone came in.
And we could also fall into judgment.
Right.
And that's really something that we all need to like take time to realize that we do. That woman was judging me because I am with a
She
much
was
older
making
man.
assumptions about your character without knowing who you even were.
But it's no different than when people used to see people of mixed races together.
Exactly.
No different than an older woman with a younger man. No different than a little person with a really tall person, a fat wife with a skinny husband. I can go on and on.
Right.
We all judge these things. We go, oh, well, there must be something wrong with him or must be da-da-da.
Exactly.
Oh, he must have money.
Literally entitled with our own opinions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that we could all absorb that and try to, do better.
Well, we can have the opportunity to see the light or we can become it.
Ooh, I like
look at
that.
her.
I like that.
But I think you played it right. I think you.
Yeah, you sure
I
did.
think
We did.
Gina played it with the reflection. You took a time to reflect.
It was
It didn't-
perfect.
I don't
It
know
was
if I didn't
great.
tell the story right, but it wasn't me like looking at her like, ugh. It
No.
was me
I think
looking
you
at
Adam.
him. It was looking
It
at
was an
Adam
epiphany,
like,
kind of.
oh yeah, to you that's what that looks like because you don't like that's. I'm sure I looked like that when I was 19 too.
Right.
You know
Yeah,
what
It
I
was
mean?
amazing when I was
So it
19.
had nothing
Me
really
too.
to do with her. It was like more like him, like, oh, the energy. And I'm like, Well, yeah.
Of course
Yeah.
they have
At
energy.
19,
youthful
before,
energy.
Yeah, before I was beat up by life also. That's what I
Right.
look like.
But I guess that's what I'm
know?
saying. To me, your energy now is just as radiant, but like in a perseverance, strong
Exactly.
way. It's
I would never go back.
beautiful.
Same.
Yeah.
I think like,
Isn't it crazy?
would you go back to your 20s?
Heck no.
No. Would you go back to your 30s?
No.
I would
Would
not.
I go back
I
to
would
high
go back
school?
to
You couldn't pay
40s.
me.
I'd go back to
No.
my late 30s. I liked me in my late 30s.
Late 30s was
No.
good. I'm okay
I
at late
liked me
30s.
there.
I was like
feel
45.
I feel like I love this age.
Me
like,
too.
As I get older, I keep loving it more
Me
and
too.
more.
So did you wake up on your 40th birthday? Because I feel like I woke up on my 40th birthday and I was just like, I don't give a shit about anyone. like, you don't like me?
I
That was
give
like
zero.
last year
but
when that
I
happened.
feel like my 40th birthday, it was like the whole, like the sky opened up and I just didn't care what people thought. And I'm like,
It was like double
so you don't
birds.
like, so I'm not your
Yeah, right.
taste.
Double birds.
Bye. See you later. The 30s were good. The 30s were good. Like Monica said.
Yeah,
Just-
I liked my late 30s.
Late
I looked
30s.
good. I felt good.
right.
I had enough bumps and bruises.
I see. I feel like I got better. Like I get better as I age.
You
like
think so?
I
Too.
like looking like a woman.
Right.
I'm
You know?
enjoying
I
that
don't know. I looked
part.
pretty.
Yes,
I looked
I
pretty
love
good
it.
when I was young. So I don't know about all that, but for me, I would say no. I liked how I looked better then, but I like me better now.
Right.
I think I'm a much better person. I think
Yeah.
I am more mature. I listen more.
Does that supersede it all for you?
No,
No. If we had to be honest, no.
I mean I could blow smoke up your ass if you want.
I think there's a level of like hotness that comes with knowing though. Like you can
I think
see
there
it and
is.
know
I think
it.
there
Anyways,
is a
come on.
knowledge. I think there's a street smart and knowledge, like a tribal
is.
knowledge that you carry
It's true.
that
It is.
most women don't carry.
It's true.
And so you kind of have this little superpower thing going on. That
And-
Right.
You know,
Older women must be sexy because the younger men
Well,
want.
Gina has younger men wonder all the time. Everywhere we go, they're like scratching at the door. I'm like, she's old enough to be your much older
Girl,
sister.
go talk to your mother. Where is your mother?
This is like the older cousin that came to your
Oh
house.
my God. I
okay?
feel like I was just telling a story and then I was like, well, my son, well, he's your age.
Okay, this is weird. all of a sudden. Were you just flirting with me?
yeah.
No, she really does have the younger boys.
But I feel like our generation, and then maybe you guys can agree or disagree, but I do feel like our generation does relate to, we relate above and below, where I felt like our parents' generation was just there.
well, they
And
just
they
didn't
didn't-
care about anybody
They
else.
just didn't. They didn't have
was
that
not a outside
desire.
the box.
They didn't have that desire to come down and
No.
like really see things through our eyes. But I feel like our generation does. Like we want to understand the younger generation. We're interested. We're curious.
We were traumatized enough to know that there's another side.
Oh.
They don't want to. They didn't want to
Something
relate.
happened.
So what do
No.
they say the quote is? It's they say you grow up to be the person that you needed when you were a
Yes, when
kid. Have
were
you
a
heard
kid.
that quote?
Well, that's what Rooted Warriors is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we grew up to be the people that we wished we would have had.
When we
Yes.
were younger.
And-
Through all the stages.
So true.
Yeah. But
Very
I
true.
think we're all, I don't know. I think the wisdom thing's pretty amazing.
I agree.
Yeah, me too. And like I said, I think there's a level of light that goes with it and some hotness that goes with it. And girls that are super steady like that, they can't be moved by those little things anymore. And it's just we're rock solid.
I mean, do you
when it
really
comes
care
to-
what people think?
I
Let's
kind
be
of
honest.
don't. I sort of
I mean, do you
don't
care?
anymore.
Do you care what
No.
people think?
Not anymore.
Overall, no.
Not
It was-
anymore.
It used
No.
to be
I
really
did.
bad. It was
I
bad.
used to very much care. Like
Me too.
my life revolved around what people thought
People
of me.
pleasing.
pleaser,
Because we were
yeah.
all people
Yeah.
pleasers, right?
100%.
'Cause we
Now I'm
said
like
our-
this.
Yeah.
No, you're not. There. Where's your third second? Oh, there it is.
There
Second
it is.
bird.
Yeah.
Two birds. Two
Yeah.
birds.
You don't just get one with Gina anymore. You get two.
You get two.
It's
She's
a
a,
double bird.
she's a double
It's the
birdie kind of girl.
It's the confirmation bird.
You
You've been
didn't get this
confirmed.
one.
But you know, there's a point. There's a point too where you beat up the lady in the parking lot,
Yeah.
and then you get to the point in life where you just don't give a
You
shit.
just
and
ram her
just go
car
to your
because you have
car.
better insurance.
So true.
Oh my God.
It's like fried green tomatoes.
If she would have caught me
Kathy
5
Bates
years
is my hero.
earlier,
You would have beat her ass in the parking lot.
or 10 years
I was waiting
later,
for that,
I would have
really.
beat the shit out of her.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I didn't. And
You could
She
in
was
jail
probably
for it.
already beat down.
she was.
She had a broken heart.
And, you know, I didn't understand it. And at first I was like so caught off guard. And then later, of course, I got really angry.
So cool part is that she gets to tell this story too. And I bet you anything she learned something from it, because there's no pleasant way for her to tell this story. So I wonder if it had a profound effect on her. Just kind of going over the situation in her head, like, that was really messed up, woman to woman. Like, I had no right to do that. I probably was out of line. Like how you say you were out of line for wanting to fight. But
did you tell her it was your husband? Because she just probably left the restaurant.
So she
thinking,
never got.
Yeah,
she
so
never got. Well, you had a ring on though.
Yeah,
I did have a ring on,
but she just could have
probably
maybe went,
didn't even
that
notice.
wasn't my place. Like,
I would hope. I mean, because like I've said things and done things, and then later been like, what was I thinking? You know, like I should have not done that. And but yeah, I think that today's podcast about perspective is everything. It really is, and I think it hits home on so many different areas.
It does. Right.
You know, like I had a family situation a while back where there was 3 of us involved. Everybody had their own kind of perspective of what happened, and everybody was equally hurt in their own facet by it.
Which means they would need completely different healing.
But it was like they could, like, none of us could really understand what the other people were saying, but it was a crappy situation. And so I realized after that just because it's my perspective, it's not their reality.
And it's not necessarily right.
It's not their reality.
Yeah, it's
and
not
I think
their
that's when you
reality.
accept that we may never get to the bottom of this, because this is while we were all present for the same situation, we had 3 different experiences.
Yes.
And what it takes to reconcile all 3 ways. It may never happen. And we just have to accept
it won't.
That.
And you just have to want to be better the next time. And like, so I can't control what they do.
Right.
But I can control what I do.
Hey, and that's what it boils down to is what you can control,
So,
right?
No matter what, the next time I'm faced with a situation like that, I'm going to deal with it much differently.
Because can you control her? No.
I can't control.
No, but you can't control that you walk your butt out of that restaurant before you go to jail.
Amen.
Well, yeah, I guess you were over 18. Never mind. Well, yeah, you were 20. But
You could have called me. I would have bailed you out.
I know you would have.
She's
Or
done
I
it
would have
before.
came
I'm
down
just
and then watched you beat her ass.
That would have been worth
I was really looking forward to the beater.
I know.
I'm
Sorry,
very
guys. I'm sorry.
Generation X.
I'm sorry. Well, thank you, Staci, for today.
Yes, thank you
Yes.
very
We
much.
appreciate it. And
We love you.
We'll
Good
be
talk,
talking
good
to you
talk.
soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good talk.
As we close today's conversation on perspectives and reality, remember, tribe members, that our view is just one lens in the kaleidoscope of expectations and experiences. We all walk unique paths, shaped by different journeys, and each perspective adds a richness to our shared human experience. Challenge yourself to listen without judgment, to see beyond your own reality, and stay connected to the stories that others carry. This is Mighty Mo signing off. Feel blessed, be blessed.